Overview of Simplify and then jump into our planning, analytics, consolidation solution and quick demonstration with SAP Analytics Cloud. So first off, Simplify, we are a firm of partners focused on business process design, content automation, basically everything planning, analytics, and consolidations. So we're a go-to SAP partner, been working in this space for a long time. Our number one goal is 100% customer referenceability. We have offices in the US and Canada, customers internationally across the globe, all different industries. We really have focused on building business content on top of SAP's software and technology stack, specific to the areas that I just mentioned to help companies be able to realize quicker time to value with their deployments. And really, as opposed to starting from that blank slate, right, they can take our long history and experience in this space and begin with a much better starting point, so they don't have to solve for that kind of 60%, 70% in some areas. That's common across different planning and analytics and financial needs, right? So we've actually invested as a firm over 6,000 plus hours into our business content, so that you don't have to. We're not the only one that thinks it's good. It's award-winning multiple times with SAP. And again, our firm Simplify is focused on all these areas today, focused on the SAP technology stack. And then we have branded our portfolio of applications that with large enterprise SAP companies, these applications come free on board per se with our services, right? And for mid-market, smaller enterprise companies, they can also leverage this as a platform, right? So really quickly, our application architecture here, this just shows how a number of our different applications come together, from pipeline and sales planning, revenue and margin, all the way going into our P&L, our financial statements, having that all together on one integrated platform with consolidations, and then with these different, what they now call XP&A scenarios, extended planning and analytics scenarios for treasury, for supply chain, and then of course HR, capital. So all of this really coming together onto one platform, leveraging our content, so not having to have a target solution for liquidity planning, for example, or for pipeline, or for enterprise, having the one shared platform for all these needs, right? Our platform can be leveraged as a service, but again, for larger enterprise companies, you can use these applications one by one. We don't license them, right? You have the ability to add our services and content on top of it from a managed perspective. This just gives you an idea of some of our example applications. Consolidations can be deployed really, really quickly. Performance reporting, liquidity planning, these are some of our really popular ones. So if you see our content and you pretty much fit into it, this is what a deployment time could look like for you. If it meets 50% of your requirements, again, you can at least leverage it as a better starting point. You're not boxed into that content in any way. So we're focused on FP&A, line of business planning, consolidations, some of the typical value that our customers are seeing, obviously optimizing their back office processes so that they're able to more quickly make decisions around their business and decreasing time from an expense, but also the time required of your team to deploy these type of solutions. And our business services are deployment, and we'll also provide managed services from an FP&A perspective ongoing. This provides you with a full kind of bill of material of all of our different kind of solutions across all the different planning and analytics and reporting needs, including consolidations as well. So each one of these applications, some companies may decide, okay, 4 or 5 of these applications make sense to deploy. Some larger organization companies, all of them may make sense, right? But we can help you evaluate this and see what's a fit and what's going to drive value for you internally in your organization. With our application architecture, with the traditional type application, planning analytics maybe on different platforms, including consolidations, different licensing, different infrastructure, and then you've got to integrate all these solutions together, and then you've got to pay one person to manage this tool, another person to manage this solution. So this is what kind of legacy application architecture could look like, right? You've got to make all of these things work together, make sure this number over here has the same number over here, so you're not spending your time arguing over numbers, right? What we're able to deliver you with SAP, sitting on top of SAP's technology platform, is one licensing, one type of model, master data that's shared across all these different use cases. And from a staffing perspective, you don't have to learn all these different technologies. Anyone who's a business analyst or a finance person can learn the underlying technology and manage this month over month, right? So whether it's your local ERP or an SAP ERP, or you're consolidating multiple ERPs, right, you've got one EPM kind of layer and extending into those additional scenarios like we mentioned earlier too. So why simplify? This is all we do, right? We're not doing ERP implementations the rest of this week. We're 100% focused. We're heavily vested in this space, and with the number one focus of 100% referenceability. Some examples of a number of our different customers across a lot of different industries who've leveraged our content. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a brief kind of overview demonstration of the solution here and give you a high-level idea of all the different capabilities of all the different applications within it. And before I'll even go into some of the different business processes, I'll give you a quick overview of the reporting side of things. Which is primarily here, we're focused on the web, and then in the end, you've always got that safety blanket. There is an EPM, an add-in as well that can assist you in your reporting. You can always go back to that. But a big part of the value with this platform is we're bringing together analytics with planning on one platform, so you can do that really well in a web-based interface with these great visualizations. And then we're also able to extend these planning scenarios out to salespeople, out to cost center managers, not dealing with Excel add-ins. As a finance person, you can always go back to the add-in, but that can be harder to deploy from an enterprise standpoint. So here you can see within our launch pad, this is within SAP Analytics Cloud, leveraging our PlaniFi content. So within our Launchpad, we have a catalog here for all of our consolidations tasks. So if we're integrating multiple ERPs into one consolidations application, again, that's the point of this, standalone consolidations. This can also sit on top of group reporting if you're an SAP install base. Either way, SAP Analytics Cloud is the recommended solution for consolidations, whether you can use it as the engine as well, or you could do that within your ERP if your ERP met those requirements and report off of everything together here. So that's consolidations. We have an FP&A Launchpad, which is more targeted towards that audience. Sales and performance management, which is, I want to make sure people can see the right screen here that I have. So I'll just make sure that there are no questions. So yeah, you should be able to see the SAP Analytics Cloud Launchpad here. So here, we have FP&A, we have sales performance management. I'll just pull up sales performance management, and this tracks things like quota attainment. You can also do quota management and quota planning in here, your annual operating plan from a sales perspective as well. So this is a application we've deployed at a number of different customers that can help them accelerate that time to value. Can sit on top of Salesforce, can sit on top of a CRM system to help you with that reporting, but then also to seed data coming from those systems into a forecast to build it more intelligently. So that's one of the applications that we have. Sales and operations supply chain, so I'll share an example of that a little bit more later. Same on HR, workforce planning, capital spend management. And then even we get into solution areas here around cash planning, treasury management, liquidity management, to help you manage your monthly, weekly cash flow needs, payroll requirements, make sure that you've got enough money in the bank for that, and minimize and maximize your capital deployment, right? So we're going to start here on the FP&A side with a quick, we'll launch into this dashboard, and there are a number of links that take us to a lot of the common processes from an FP&A perspective that we're looking into. We're going to start with the performance reporting workbook, just to show you how you can leverage some of the reporting that comes out of SAP Analytics Cloud with all your planning and reporting consolidated reporting here within the solution. So here you can see, this is just a summary, but we have kind of your standard P&L report workbook with comparative, trended, consolidating, and your commentary in here. You've got a table of contents in here to launch into any one of those reports, but you also have your visualizations and your bridge-based type reporting telling you the story of how your actual results came in versus your budget, and what were the drivers. Was that volume? Was that variance? We could drill into these drivers, into product customer combinations, understanding what's driving that. But this report workbook is really meant to be published out, so you could publish this, including the bridges and the supporting report, out for all of your operating income, all of your operating business units, for example, right? You could publish this down to product level detail, even down to customer groupings, although that analysis would look a little differently, would look a little different when you're getting into that level of granularity. So we've got these visualizations within the tool. They're really interactive, easy to drill into. Happy to show you that on another webinar. Our comparative reports, these are all basically Excel-like grids, right? So you can leverage the Excel functionality along with the visualizations that I was just showing you here on this one platform. So here we deal with all the currency things that you would expect. We can toggle, we're looking at one specific company code. We can toggle between, local currency and US dollars, and this report's going to update accordingly. We can select all of our different segments and things, and it's going to, update based off of our latest and greatest selections. We have trended reports, consolidating reports, like I mentioned. Right now we're just looking at one business unit, but we could look at this across all of the different companies in our hierarchies, which, by the way, we can just acquire very easily from the source system. You don't have to manage that in the tool. We pick that, we see our companies across the top, really flexible. We can change the view and look at this consolidating by countries instead of by company codes, and really easily drill into these different hierarchies and things like that we can again create directly in the system and manage simply in here, or acquire externally. We can capture commentary detail in the system here, so we have all of our different business units or our cost centers. For example, we can focus on key accounts, and based off certain thresholds, they can key in this commentary right here into the column, and then from a consolidated basis, you can come back in here and collect the commentary for the different accounts. And use that to build up your board book commentary, which at the end of the day, you can take this book and you can export it and publish it out. You can export these tables into Excel. You can export these entire reports into PDF or into PowerPoint, which is really nice because it basically will cycle through all of your different organizational structures. For example, we can have this publish out for all of our different countries and publish out into a nice PowerPoint for us there. So that's just a quick example of kind of the end reporting. I'll give you another ad hoc report example so you can see how you can build a report in the solution, and then we'll get into the business planning processes coming right after that. So I'm going to go on our menu here, which shows it as an administrator, all the things that we have access to, whether it's stories or analytical apps or doing the modeling or calculations, calendarization, so you can publish out specific tasks to users during the planning process flow, and then security, right? You secure this based off your organizational structures like you would expect, right? So average user isn't going to see all this. They're only going to see the screens that you're really directing them to on their home page, but we can come in here and go and create a story. And average super user can certainly do, average business users as well. So when you create a story, we can select, we'll pick a canvas here and select the design experience we want, and it's going to automatically come in here and say, okay, we can add all kinds of different charts to the canvas, or we can just start exploring our data. And first we want to pick our data set. So we could just pick an external data set that we could just grab from Excel and drag and drop into the solution and then start analyzing it. We could pick a data set from another solution, so we can connect directly to most solutions that are providing general ODBC type. We can obviously connect to SAP solutions very easily as well, but there's a ton of built-in adapters here. Here we already have a model, so we're going to go ahead and pick a model that we have already acquired into our environment. So we'll pick this P&L model, and we're just going to add it to our story so that we can do some quick analysis and see how we're doing operationally. So we're going to click into our accounts, and maybe we'll just focus on gross margin. We can look at gross margin, and it automatically kind of brings in the hierarchy and shows us the components of gross margin. Maybe we want to compare our actual versus forecast, so we can just select that up here within the Explorer. And you could do this all with like a traditional pivot table type approach, which I'll show you later too, but it's really easy to kind of explore your data in this way, much more simpler than you could do in an Excel type format. Again, you can bring Excel data into this and use it for analysis too. So we're looking at actual versus forecast. Maybe I want to see a product breakout, so I'm just going to add our products into here. And then I could just drill down naturally into the products, leveraging the hierarchies that we have in the system. I could focus on a specific organization or specific territories. Maybe I want to look at North America plus South America. We don't have a hierarchy in here, but we could just select both of those, and then we have a nice view of our Americas across all of our different products. We could copy this to a new story and just use this to kind of create a visualization plus more of a traditional Excel-based grid, which I'll just create now. So I'm adding this grid into here, and then you can see if I click on show and hide, this is just kind of like a traditional kind of like Excel widget here, right? So if you're good at Excel, you can get really good at building solutions in here. You can drill into our hierarchy. I want to see the totals in the bottom, so I'm just going to change that. I have our actual right now. Maybe I want to look at actual versus forecast. So this is just like a pivot table on steroids over here to do your reporting. So it can do a lot more than a traditional pivot table can do. Handles the conditional formatting and everything really well. You can add calculations that you can leverage throughout the story, which I'll show you. But here it just shows us here's what's in our rows, here's what's in our columns. If we want to add a comparison, we'll just pick on select, hit forecast, can add that into here. If we want to add a column to do a calculation, we can add a repeating column, and then actually just take this minus that, just like we would in Excel, create a variance, type the header into there, and then we can keep kind of just drilling up and down in this hierarchy. If we wanted to create, maybe let's hide these two items and just focus on operating income, and then maybe we want to create a calculation in here to see what our ratio is, actual versus forecast, and how we're trending. We could do that in Excel, or we could also just add a calculation right here within the story and say, operating income, just type this in. This is how you create the calculations in the tool, operating income, and we'll say divide that by total sales. And we add that, and then we could go into the formatting wizard and format that as a % too, but this adds this right to the visualization here for us. Maybe we want to look at a number call out of just the ratios and add that to here. We can do that really quickly as well. Just add a new, not a new grid. I want to add a new visualization, a new kind of chart. I want to focus on that calculation we just created for operating income. Maybe just look at it as like a numeric call out, and so that adds it to this story that we've created really, really quickly here. Even comes with some recommended comparisons, so maybe we want to compare to forecast as well, and we can see that pop out there. So just really quick intro to the report writing. Again, the value with here, you can bring these visualizations all together, have truly all of your month-end, bookend reporting, as well as even your operational daily stuff coming out of the solution, published out of it, and then you can always go back into Excel as well. That same kind of capability exists here. You can add a table, you can pivot back and forth. Pick your data set, open it up, and add your pivot table, right? Also within Excel, you can do things like retrieve. So you can retrieve data into Excel, so you can do the pivot table type reporting for those Oracle and BPC lovers out there of SmartView and the EPM add-in. You've got this like get retrieve formula type functionality. So you just do cell references, you can build this out really quickly, do this highly formatted, and then you have save data formulas as well, so that if you're doing some planning in here, you can always just directly input like you would on the web the planning values, or you can link to different drivers in here, and then you actually just go and you publish this back and you process it once you're done. But you can both retrieve and send data within here pretty easily. So that being said, that's just a quick overview of some of the kind of the basic functionality within the tool. I'm going to focus next on a lot of these different kind of business planning scenarios. We got into the P&L report book. Next, I'm going to jump into our sales and margin planning process flow from an administrative perspective. So here, as an FP&A user or as a business analyst who's responsible or an owner for a specific planning process, I have the ability to manage our data directly within the system here. I can do set targets. I can copy actual data in. I can actually use predictive scenarios to seed a forecast for us more intelligently based off of different drivers and models that we create. So you have a ton of functionality available here for you. I'll just click on this first step with your target setting so that you can manage this data. Business users as well can create their own forecasts and can manage their data in their own private versions and then publish it back to the versions that are owned by the administrators too here. So you have this availability within the solution to create these simple kind of buttons that guide users through seeding a target, for example, right? If I wanted to seed a target, maybe based off of actual versus a forecast, I can create these guided experience with these prompts kind of filled out. I run this, and then that's going to go ahead and seed my data. I could then come in and I could say, okay, for net sales, if I'm setting a target, for example, I could set a specific value for maybe a country or globally, and based off of what I input here, it's going to go and automatically, it's going to update this version for us, and it's going to automatically disaggregate those values. So you see it's actually wrote 6,200 values down to all the different combinations of sales within Canada with their different products and customers and things like that for their budget year. So similar to how you use this to seed, you can also seed your forecast, seed your budget in more detail, and then use these target kind of versions. You have a lot of flexibility to guide you through the process as you're building that up. There's a version management capability within the solution, so you can share, and create public versions really easily. You can copy these versions and manage this similar to how you saw, more from an administrative perspective in addition to that. So this planning process, this is really focused on sales and margin planning with kind of a volume perspective. So you can do that initial setup, you can load your exchange rates, you can do some simulations, your predictions, and then from a detailed planning process, you can come in and perform, volume planning, for example. You could get this from your demand planning people, your sales drivers, and pricing information you can get from your pricing team, right? Or if you're a smaller mid-market company, you may have a number of folks completing these same tasks, right? Owning these. So this is more kind of an administrative view. If I'm a demand planner, I'm only going to see the specific processes that are relevant. I can set this up as a calendar so I get published to me the tasks that I need to complete, and then you can have visualization of where people are at throughout the process. So example of volume planning, I mentioned sales drivers, revenue planning assumptions. So if you have assumptions to take your sales to revenue and revenue recognition, we have standard content to help you with that, with standard costing, with bill of material scenario modeling. So if you want to reforecast your standard costs based off of changes in underlying assumptions on materials and things like that, you can do that. If you deal with country-to-country sales and intercompany, we have a whole application around that to help you with that and generate the production and the intercompany sales and the transfer pricing. So we have customers that work with us just to deploy this application, for example, right? A popular application. Then ultimately you're reviewing and improving your plan at the end of the day. So that gives you really a kind of a quick view of that sales and margin planning process. I'm going to cover a few other processes, just give you a quick little overview of those, from our catalog, right? I think the next one I want to just highlight, so we talked about kind of the sales as well as the FP&A view of the sales and margin planning process, also the supply chain component of it. So we have content in here to help, manage and, capacity plan and production in here as well, and process flows to kind of guide you through that as to what is your constrained versus your unconstrained plan, and really this is all more around supply chain planning considerations. So you can do some financial modeling within here too, but the focus in here is capacity and inventory and production and make versus buy and all those kind of topics like this. So same platform you can use for FP&A, you can also leverage for a lot of these different scenarios. Happy to take if you have more interest in the future, happy to take you through that in more detail. Another really popular content area that a lot of companies leverage is the capital and project management, right? So we can um, open this up, and really this has multiple modules underneath it. So it has a module for project planning and approvals. So this is more of a, typically an annual process or biannual process. You're proposing all of your projects and their ROI for the upcoming year, actually going through an approval and a workflow around it. You can do, DCF models for those projects, and we have, content to really help you prioritize and report off of those projects. And then ultimately, approve them at the end of the day here too. So that's one of the planning areas that's offered within this content area. Another one is CapEx and financial planning. So once you have a project approved and it's budgeted, then you're doing really these two or three other bubbles. You're coming up with your monthly CapEx impact and financial planning impact to that. And then you're also coming up with your project and internal order forecasting for that, on a month over month basis. So two additional modules to help you with that. And here we even get into, IT or special project, internal and external resource costing, and attributing those expenses back to the projects and helping you in a more driver-based perspective come up with a forecast for those needs around resourcing as well too. So next one I'll give you just a quick overview of is our workforce planning content. So this has really employee level planning content in it. It has headcount planning level of detail. So this integrates and would pull from, PeopleSoft, Workday, SuccessFactors, ADP, right? We've deployed on top of all those solutions. So you employ your register, you pull your register into here. You can do a monthly reforecast. You load your assumptions. You load any changes, new hires, terms, promotions, transfers. Have a whole application for large enterprise companies around transfers to help you make sure that you're locking hands on that. And then you can get into more operational kind of supply and demand, get into labor demand planning, understand how you're doing from an actual perspective versus your needs there, and get into headcount simulation scenarios. So it doesn't, for call centers, for example, you're not going to necessarily be getting into employee, or for workshop floor employees, you're not going to necessarily get into every single person on the register, but you can plan based off the average salary information that you bring in. So here's just a quick kind of example screen showing you what that looks like from a summary perspective. Obviously, you can plan this out, down to the individual months, but here you're inputting and loading your kind of drivers, and you're able to load, by position, by account, by cost center. And adjust your compensation information, your average salary information. But with any of these, you've got a lot of flexibility as you plan within this solution. If I change this, you can change from a higher level, or you can go down to all the individual positions, but this really allows for really quick scenario modeling within here too. So I change that average salary, immediately our compensation numbers all update accordingly, right? I can come in and make changes to our head count here, and this is pretty simple head count kind of view where you plan out your new hires, terminations by your different functional area, by your different positions, getting down to that detail too, right? So as you input data into the system, as soon as you publish it back, everyone's available to see these tasks performed. So commonly this would be, a cost center manager or financial analyst aligned to that cost center manager coming in here and updating their headcount, updating any other drivers, and then reforecasting that period, and then ultimately this HR plan, just like your capital plan and other things, feeds into that P&L planning model that you saw a little bit earlier for your consolidated reporting. So actually, I'll just go to that very quickly next here. So I'll open back up our FP&A Launchpad, and I'll just jump into our financial statement planning process. So our sales and our costing and our HR and our capital and all these other areas kind of all funnel up into our financial statements. So we have a small process flow for this. We have just straight expense cost center planning that you've probably seen and done before. So we have that, of course, in the solution. That also bubbles up into our financial statement planning from a company perspective or business unit perspective at the at the end of the day. So here you see on our first tab here, we have this by like a profit center, for example, where we acquire data from our more detailed sales and margin planning models, from our capital planning models, and we have a P&L, and we can have comparatives in here, right? And any data that we input directly into here for interest or finance charges, for example, we just key into the schedule, and we update our forecast or plan accordingly. And then that's gonna, we'll submit that back. So once we submit for our company, for example, then on a consolidated basis, you see that immediately is available as soon as we're okay to publish that. You can also do working capital planning in here, so you can plan for things like DSO, DIO, DPO. This is more of a financial kind of cash flow plan, but you change these drivers, and that's going to update and help you kind of build your balance sheet plan, which ultimately then is going to automatically filter up into a cash flow plan that's calculated based off of your changes in balance sheet, changes in your balance sheet. Also for your out months, we have liquidity planning application in here too, so you can get into customer specific receivable information, payable information, payroll information from a more of a treasury cash flow perspective to plan the couple next out months, which can then feed into your cash flow. And then from a financial standpoint, certainly the rest of this you're doing indirect, if not all of it from that side. But those applications do integrate together as in addition to that. So that's just a really quick overview from a planning perspective of some of what I wanted to show you. So this is pretty deep and wide content, so could take you through a deep dive in one of these areas in an hour or two on its own, right? But these are all really popular application areas as part of our platforms that our customers are leveraging. Last one, but not least, consolidations. So this is standalone consolidations along with our planning content here. So I'm just going to open this up. This gives us a consolidations process flow to load and collect and validate our data, load journals, load statistical data, run intercompany matching, run validation controls on our individual entities, and then in addition to that, from a corporate consolidated standpoint as well. But this just, as we load our data, tells us is our balance sheet imbalance, is our cash flow imbalance, is intercompany all tied out, did we load our statistical data, have we loaded supplemental data that's maybe needed for the cash flow, for changes in fixed assets, for example, right, on an actual perspective. So that's the local entity process flow, a group consolidations planning process flow, and then linking back to our planning tasks once we're done with our monthly consolidation. So this is a very economical solution that can help you, get your consolidations out of Excel or replace BPC or replace, OneStream or Oracle very, very quickly, and again, give you one platform where you're managing all of this, so you're not doing it in multiple solutions. So that being said, that concludes just a quick kind of overview of what we wanted to share today of our solution and offering on top of the SAP technology stack with our PlaniFi, our branded set of applications that you can leverage along with SAP Analytics Cloud free on board with our services. Again, we don't license it. Once we deploy it, it's yours. You can also, for mid-market companies, leverage this as a platform, right, and have us fully manage your environment. So thanks again for everyone joining. If there's any questions here, I can take them quickly. Oh, yep. How long does the typical application take to deploy? I'll just refer back to this slide, right? So consolidations, we can deploy this in 8 weeks. You may go through multiple parallels after that, so you may not deploy it for 2-3 months, right? But we have the ability to meet those baseline requirements very, very quickly. Performance reporting 3-4 weeks, liquidity planning 6 weeks. Right, so that content again can decrease your time required because we kind of know what most of these business processes look like. Again, we're not building every industry specific requirement, so if you have really industry specific requirements, it just provides you a better starting point. But some of these areas you can really see big cost savings leveraging these applications. So thanks everyone for joining. Feel free to reach out to me, John Essig at Simplify. I'm in charge of our business content and strategy around this if you want any more information. And otherwise, have a great rest of your day.